Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the martial arts. My guest today is an accomplished speaker, martial artist, mentalist, magician, hypnotist, and former teacher who specializes in delivering top-notch entertainment for high-end corporate events. He has honed his craft through extensive training in martial arts, psychology, Eastern and Western philosophy, stoicism, and hypnotherapy. His background and expertise in these fields have given him a unique perspective on the power of focus and concentration. His presentation focuses on teaching people how to keep their inner critic working for them instead of against them. In addition to all of this, he also studied comedy at Second City in Chicago. Please welcome my guest today, the professional show-off himself, the amazing Arthur Fratelli. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Brian, I'm amazing. Good to be on the podcast.
I'm so happy we're doing this, and I'm glad we're taking the time, and I can't wait to chat and get to know a little more about you than I've read already.
Same here. I'm excited to be on here.
I know you said you listened to a few episodes, but kind of how we like to start things. I want to go back to the very beginning. I know I read that you started around the age of 12, but I want to know what led to that. Where did that first spark, that first interest in martial arts come from, and kind of what launched your martial arts journey?
Excellent. Well, I have such fond memories of my journey. It's been nothing but a journey. And it actually goes back to when I was about 8 years old and I got into archery.
Oh, cool.
And what archery did was it taught me, and I can only realize this looking backwards, but it taught me how important it is to be able to be still and focus. And that focus, I realized, was keeping me busy. And when I wasn't doing archery, I was thinking about archery. Well, when I took a pause from archery, it was replaced with BMX bikes in the 80s. Everybody had a Mongoose or a Red Line or a Diamondback. So we all did BMX bikes. And it was totally rad. That is right. Awesome. That's one of my movies, man.
Mine too.
We had so much fun doing that. And I was so pumped with adrenaline. But then skateboarding took over. And it was the first wave of big skateboarding, like the Bones Brigade in the 80s.
Gleaming the Cube.
And, dude, Christian Slater, you know it. I was there opening night with my big flop haircut. And,
nice.
That was my whole life. But then I got into video games and I started struggling with video game addiction. In the summer of my would have been 7th grade year, I got addicted to a video game called Wizardry, and it was on an old Apple II computer. And essentially it was the forefather of World of Warcraft and games like this. It was very Tolkien-esque, Dungeons and Dragons, mostly imagination. But I spent my whole summer indoors and I started getting really depressed. And I'm only able to put this together now with time. And the correlation is when I wasn't busy, my brain, my inner critic, that's the part of your brain that drags you backwards into depression or forwards into anxiety. You know, you're living in the past or the future instead of where you should be. And I noticed when I didn't have a discipline, something to focus on several times a week, I would fall into depression. And video games were kind of my trigger for that.
Wow.
And when I was 12 in 7th grade, I was getting picked on. I went to a school, the kids were kind of wealthy and I was not the wealthy kid. So I kind of got pushed around a little, and these kids had known each other for 6 years. Well, my father had had enough and he signed me up for martial arts, and I studied Taekwondo, was my first martial art at 12. And I got really lucky because I had an instructor who was an old school Vietnam veteran, and Mr. Dome. And he was a Harley riding, gray haired, bearded, looks like ZZ Top. Nice. And this dude was very serious. His knuckles were just bruised. And he took me in, the dorky, nerdy, skinny little guy I was. And by the end of 6 months, man, I had confidence. I could make my gi pop, you know, the crack, know, when you punch and kick. And that when you hear that, that's that self-satisfaction. You get that, hey, I put in time and energy and I'm being rewarded. I was not able to do this a few weeks ago and now I can. And that gave me the confidence to go forth from there. And that really gave me interest in all martial arts. I started looking into everything, man. I started exploring every martial art I could. I loved Kung Fu for the beauty of the style. And I loved boxing for for the pure aerobic workout is the boxing. I learned how to jump rope, do the speed bag. And for me, martial arts is all about keeping that inner critic quiet and working out and getting that same exercise that your ancestors got millions of years ago when they were out hunting and they were out defending themselves and fighting and burning calories. And if I don't get my workout in every single day, man, my head is not straight. I need to be on right.
So how long did you stay at that first school?
So the first school I stayed for 3 years. Nice. And I moved on. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I moved on though to a Kung Fu school. And then in the early 90s, I joined a mixed martial arts group. This is back when the UFC was just beginning. And at this point, I was ready to take on more serious challenges instead of, the typical Taekwondo type, due to insurance, these schools can't go all out fighting and things like that. So I was ready to go to the next level. So I got in with some guys that were pretty serious and I got beat up regularly. It got old very quickly.
I want to back up just a little. When you were at the Taekwondo school for those 3 years, did you ever get into the competition side of things?
I went to one competition and that was it. I typically did not compete. It was more, for me, this is all meditation in motion.
Okay.
And meditation in motion to me is worth 10 meditations in silence. When you can focus on learning a skill, like you're learning your forms or you're working on the speed bag, it's you and this goal. And you cannot think of anything but what you're physically trying to learn. And that's the same with skateboarding or bicycling or any discipline you learn. Now I've been doing magic for 30 years. When you're learning a card trick, how to shuffle cards with one hand, you have to consciously focus on what you're doing. Yeah. And the science, I love the neurology side of martial arts because when you're trying to learn a skill and you go to bed at night, your brain during REM sleep is actively trying to make connections in your brain so that you are more efficient at whatever it is you're trying to learn. For example, when someone's on the speed bag and they get started, they look around and they say, this isn't even possible. How can I get this speed bag going? Then you check in on them in 2 months and it's, So I love this way the brain works. And I love using sports psychology to try to get the most out of every practice session that I'm in.
Nice. What belt did you get to at the Taekwondo school?
I did make it to black belt.
Nice.
When I was a teenager. And that was a lot of fun. But that, to me, that was just one part of the journey. Right. I wanted to learn everything I could about every martial art ever invented, which led me, I was able to train for a little bit with the Hicksons for a couple weekends. I trained with them back in the 90s when they were dominating, back in the mid 90s. So I'm sorry, with Hicks and Gracie, excuse me. I was able to train with Hicks and Gracie for a couple weekends. And that was mind blowing right there. Just watching how, this family grew up with all these martial arts artists in the house and having a father who could train them and guide them. What an advantage, just awesome. I learned so much.
And back then, a lot of people were talking about Hoist because he was in the UFC. A lot of people don't realize Hickson was the good one. I mean, Hoist was good, but Hickson was the good one.
That's right. He used to say, I'm good, but my brother could beat me. Yeah.
Yep.
And that was back in the day. I loved it because I grew up when that was all, I was in my late teens rather, when that whole UFC thing came to fruition. And the guy who won the second or third UFC, he trained in the same group I was with.
Oh, nice.
He was an alternate and he stepped in and won the whole thing.
So I got to ask you then, are you more a fan of the old school UFC or the new, more, a lot more rules and more modernized style?
So clearly it's evolved in the right direction, but at the same time, it did really answer those questions that we've been asking for decades is what is better? Which martial art is the most dangerous? Well, the answer is if you don't know all of them, you might as well not know any of them in the ring,
Basically the first 4 UFCs were a paid infomercial for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, 100%.
I agree. It was. They were definitely made to his advantage. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
But at the same time, it really shows you got to be like Bruce Lee said. You got to take what is useful, absorb what is useful from every discipline and apply it to your own.
So did you ever then, in any of your martial arts, did you ever get into the teaching side of things?
Yeah, actually I did. I took a Kung Fu school that a gentleman had opened years ago in Nebraska. And it was more like Tai Chi and stuff. So I did teach a little bit of that.
Okay.
I never got into the teaching of the more serious fighting or anything. Never got in that, but definitely have taught a few students here and there. But again, I find great joy in just the silence, being alone, focusing on your workout, getting your heart going. So that to me is great peace. I've never finished a workout and said, God, I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Now, I'm curious if you remember, because my core system is traditional Taekwondo. Do you remember what system of Taekwondo you studied, like which Kwan it was, or?
No, this would have been 1987.
Okay.
8. No, I'm sorry, man. It's been so long.
No, I was just curious. I like asking that.
I do remember how to count in Korean somewhat. Hana, Tulu, Set, Net, Dasa. Am I right?
You're close. Yeah, that's actually pretty good for being that long. So, yeah. And depending what school, a lot of them pronounce it just a little bit different. But yeah, Hana, Dual, Set, Net, Dasat, Rasa, Yogap, Yodel, Hop, Yul. So I mean, but it's I've heard of,
my friend.
Yeah, and I've heard a few of those pronounced just a little differently at different schools, and it's spelled a little differently and stuff. But yeah. So what do you remember then? And it was a while ago, but do you remember much about your black belt test? What kind of stuff did you have to do at that school?
So it was certainly the thing that a lot of seems like a lot of schools around here was you fight multiple people at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd send one in for a couple minutes, then another person would go after you. It would be one after another, and you'd have to do 3 or 4 in a row. And then what I remember most, though, was the physical workout required to get to your black belt. They weren't just giving them out. You had to do push-ups. You had to do them on your knuckles. There was just a lot of – whereas it's sad to see a lot of the schools, that have turned into, you buy a belt, the McDojo type style. But, yeah, I do remember tons of – Cardio was the big deal in our school, but what we were sorely missing was, and nobody really had this back in the day, but was the ground fighting and the grappling, which is what I really wanted to find. And always, as a true martial artist, always looking to expand and add more to your repertoire and get rid of what you don't need.
Yes, always. And that's smart, especially at that young age that you went out seeking that. I mean, because, you said you were there, from about 12 to 15, and then you went and found, now when you started looking for other schools, were you specifically looking for Kung Fu, or was it
Yes, I was. I got a book. I wanted to follow Bruce Lee's footsteps and start with something from China where, I love the idea of, the Chinese martial arts spreading throughout the world. So I wanted to start where it started, and I wanted to learn the southern schools are the Wing Chun, the northern schools are the long fist and the Shaolin high kicks. And I wanted to learn everything about each of those. And what it led me down to, sadly, when I met the master that was behind this system, I'd already been in magic for a while, and he was doing essentially what were magic tricks and trying to convince people that it was chi energy. And I was very turned off immediately. And I immediately quit because I was like, I know how these magic tricks are done, and you're trying to tell people you have energy. I'm done.
Yeah.
And I realized that there were more efficient methods of, self-defense and combat and working out. And so I was very disillusioned, but that's part of being a magician. As a magician, you're a skeptic. You're always Harry Houdini spent the second half of his career going around debunking mediums, psychics, spiritualists. And I felt no different when I saw this gentleman get up on stage and push a spear into his neck and say, I'm flowing my chi energy. And I'm looking around going, everybody's clapping like he's magic, and it's not, it's a trick. In regards to chi energy and what we think about it as martial artists, it varies across the spectrum from people who believe it's an actual energy, something you can produce like Ken or Ryu in Street Fighter 2, and you can do a Hadouken, a Hadouken, whatever, and that's your chi energy. But in my mind, and this is a friend of mine, I credit my friend Tom, he's been a lifelong martial artist, and he says what chi energy is supposed to be is a teaching technique. And by that, I mean, the brain thinks in visuals. If you think of the word imagination, the first word is image. So if you can use imagery to connect with your student on how to properly throw a kick or a punch and use the term chi energy, the energy within you, then that is a great way to visualize a technique. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a good visualization is worth 1,000,000 words because your brain struggles to recognize visualization from reality. And the example I would give in this chi energy would be teaching someone how to throw a proper cross, how to throw a good, solid right cross. And you would explain to them, imagine your chi energy coming from the earth into your feet, into your ankles, into your calves, into your knees, into your thighs, into the hip, and you twist into it to get maximum torque, and picture that chi energy at the moment when it goes from your shoulder and your complete relaxed body at the last moment tenses to connect, and picture your chi energy leaving you from the earth up. And that is why, and as a hypnotist and as a sports psychology fan, I really feel that there is value to some degree in teaching chi energy. But let's not mistake this with mysticism. It is a pseudoscience, in my opinion. This is my opinion, to believe that there is these energy that will protect you from blades or anything. But as far as a teaching technique, I can see where someone would come up with it. There's some techniques that you have to visualize. It's almost impossible to describe without some sort of visualization. And that's the theory that my friend Tom and we talk about a lot.
Nice. So it's not like the Force.
Unfortunately not, but if you were to use your imagination, that's what you'd be capable of. But unfortunately, we are bound by physics and the laws of science. A great book for all my martial arts friends that I don't think you should be allowed to graduate high school without reading is called Demon Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark, and it's by Carl Sagan. And that book is basically a great way to tell reality from fiction. And in the world of martial arts, where there's a lot of legends and lore, we really need a science-based education to know what is real and what is not. And again, we can credit the MMA community for kind of separating reality from fiction and what does and doesn't work. But I really enjoy talking martial arts theory, and that's one that I'll talk about with people for hours.
Nice. Yeah. Another book to add to my list too. So I like that.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it. It's definitely worth reading. It came out in 96, and every year it seems like it's more relevant to the world we live in, where it's hard to distinguish reality from fiction, and being a skeptic, I think, is extremely important.
Nice.
So again, that led me to the Western martial arts, which I found the workout, just a boxer's workout is really, so for me, that's so, oh man, there's nothing like it. That there's a reason those guys work out like that. It's because, keep your heart going.
Yep. I was lucky enough years ago when I was doing a lot more training than I am now, unfortunately. But I had a group of guys at the Taekwondo school I was teaching at that wanted extra practice. And I jokingly, I'm like, well, what about every day at 5 a.m.? They're like, okay, we'll meet you here. And I'm like, I didn't think they would. And like for these guys, and we were talking about it. I was judging MMA fights. And we were talking about it at one of the MMA fights. And the guy who was leading the commission at the time, he's like, well, could I join you guys? I'm like, yeah, if you want to. I don't know if you follow boxing, but this is a guy who was one of Virgil Hill's original trainers back in the day. And so he came to these workouts for 6 months every morning at 5 a.m. and he taught us boxing drills. We taught him kicking drills. And it was some of the best workouts I've ever had in my life. Probably the best 6 months of my life as far as like physical and workout stuff. And I was so sad when he moved. But yeah, I bet. And 5 a.m. is ideal. That's the hour of the tiger. I mean, that's right out of Book of Five Rings. You wake up before 3 and 5 and you work out. And Brian, you know this. When you work out at 5 a.m., man, the rest of your day is the best day. You'll never have a bad day. You can hand. It's all mental, man. Yep. That's what I'm telling you. Listen, I look at it like this, evolutionary wise. 100,000 years ago, our ancestors were up before dawn, hunting, trapping, gathering, following buffalo across the plains, and they were doing tons of calories and cardio, and they're out there, making weapons and trying to hunt. And now here we are, fast forward to 2023, we are literally a button away from having any type of food delivered right to our door without expanding calories. Yep. We're able to, whatever we want. And we didn't have time to get depressed 1,000 years ago because we were wondering where our next meal is going to come from. Mm-hmm. And we were busy chopping wood to stay warm. And now I think we see people are depressed and anxious. First of all, man, we've got this whole culture of we're convinced we have to have 3 meals a day, fast food. They want you, by they, I mean, the stock prices of these companies are not going to go up if we don't go to KFC for breakfast, Taco Bell for lunch, and Pizza Hut for dinner. Yeah. And then at night when we're watching TV, there's all these ads saying, are you depressed? Are you overweight? Are you having issues with cholesterol? And it's all their stock prices are going up by convincing you to sit at home, eat junk food, and then you don't look as good as these people on commercials, so you need medicine. When the answer is, we should be getting up early, exercising, eating 1 meal a day, eating sensibly, going to bed early, getting up early, repeat. Yeah. You won't need any of that. All that whole industry is built upon making sure that we are addicted. And the toughest part with that is it's that first step of doing it the first few, because usually it's most people, it's like if you do it for like 7 to 10 straight days, it'll become a habit. And then like when I was doing, I need to get back to that, but I know after about 2 weeks, I didn't even need an alarm clock. It's like 4:15, yep. Boom, eyes wide open, and I was out the door in 10 minutes.
Listen, man, I'm with you. I haven't missed, with the exception of a few days when I'm traveling, I haven't missed a workout in almost 3.5 years.
Wow, you're doing better than me.
consistent working out, sometimes twice a day. I hit the every day, same thing, speed bag. I've got heavy bags. I've got jump rope 3 minutes a day minimum. And I've never felt better. And it's really, to me, it's like once you get that habit, and that's the key. I highly recommend a book by Jason Clear called Atomic Habits. Oh, okay. And it's fantastic. And the audiobook version is on YouTube, I believe. But basically, it comes down to once you can establish these good habits, he talks to you about how to do habit stacking and how to do habit loops. And once you can get this cue and reward lined up as a system in your life for whatever it is you want to do, it's on autopilot from there. And I've been using techniques like this. This is all psychological techniques and things that I've been able to use to really be able to be more productive throughout my day. And to be more productive with, everything.
Which was a better workout, the boxing school or the MMA school?
Well, so in my opinion, there's two different workouts. So one is when you're a guy my age, you want to work out that you're going to be able to leave and still get and not have to go to the hospital. So
yep.
I'll tell you what I enjoy about the modern workout I do is I know I'm going to be able to make it to my car. The workout I used to do with the MMA guys, I was taught in my first class there what the common peroneal is. Do you know what that is? The nerve down the side of your leg.
Okay, yeah.
And it's this nerve. And if you take a round kick just at the right angle, you're not going to be able to walk on that leg. And my first day in class, I found that out. I also found out that when you go to the ground, whereas in Taekwondo, it was, okay, step back, let's get back up. I fell to the ground and I found that the fight was beginning from a whole new angle. I didn't know anything about that. So fighting from the ground is a different cardio. By far, and working out, sparring with someone's a different cardio. Yes. So back when I was a teenager, I fancied myself Enter the Dragon, hey man, I'm like Bruce Lee here. But now, man, give me the no sparring workout every time.
Nice. Now, I know I read in your bio that you're actually a teacher now. Before you got into your current, did you actually teach or? So
I've got a really interesting story there. Basically, when I was in college, I was really interested in magic and mind reading, mentalism. And I met, there was a professor that was a hypnotist, and he had a hypnosis course and a class that he taught. And I became a hypnotherapist. And I took that on the road, performing at high schools, colleges, doing my comedy hypnosis show. Okay. So that led me, right when I was about to graduate college, I got a degree in education, and I did 1 year of teaching in the public school system. And I told myself, I'm going to do 1 year teaching, and I'm also going to be a professional performer doing hypnosis and magic and speaking at events. And I'm going to see if I can make a living at that. And I've never gone back to teaching. Wow. So that was 1998. So it was 25 years ago. Ever since then, I've been performing full-time on stage, traveling around the country, speaking to groups about the power of the mind. It's really a lot of fun.
How did COVID put a damper on that quite a bit?
Yeah, man, I've been rebuilding for 3 years. There was a week in March, Brian, let me tell you, I didn't answer my phone, and my voicemail was full. And it was just one voicemail, same voicemail, different name and event. Hey, this is so-and-so with this event. We need to cancel, and we'd like our deposit back. It's like, oh, jeez.
Man, that's brutal.
Hey, man, but you know what, Brian? Here's the thing. The journey of a martial artist prepares you for these things. Yep. Because along your way, when you become a martial artist, you've already faced adversity and discipline, and why would you not expect that from your life? And I was able to use the philosophies that martial arts taught me to get through that.
Okay. And that actually leads to kind of my next question. You answered a little bit, but at what point did you decide, or did it just happen that you started using martial arts in your career and in your, on stage and doing your, corporate speaking and entertaining and stuff? How did that come about?
Well, martial arts is a way of life. I feel like it's a hard drive. Once you become a martial artist, it's you look for it everywhere. You see it in movies. So it expresses itself like Bruce Lee says. He says martial arts is the ultimate expression of yourself. And I feel that I've been able to bring that attitude to the stage. When I'm on stage, I have no rules about what I do. I juggle, I do magic, I do hypnosis. I'm the ultimate expression. I'm like Bruce Lee's theory. I've always embraced that on stages. I'm not going to call myself a magician exclusively, just like Bruce Lee wouldn't have called himself a Wing Chun man, or just, so I bring all of that to the stage every time I'm on stage.
That's really cool. Yeah, I read that because it said that you hated those labels. You didn't want to be just one thing or the other. And I also read somewhere that literally no show's ever the same.
That's true. And that's part of the shared experience of a live performance, which is why I feel like it's great to be on Zoom and entertaining, but it's not the same as being there in person for a shared experience at that one moment in time.
Right.
And I love performing live. It's just it's kind of a thrill. It's a rush.
I know you know some of the philosophies and the teachings of martial arts. Do you ever break out any techniques on stage?
Yeah, just last night. I was on stage for a corporate conference, and I'm not going to lie, I whipped out a few pretty impressive kicks to keep people's attention.
Nice.
And I have a few jokes. One of my jokes that my daughters consider very cringeworthy. I say, what is Bruce Lee's favorite drink? And then I do a big jumping kick, and I say, water.
Wow, that's the ultimate dad joke.
That's pretty bad. And then I'll say afterwards, I'll say to everyone, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but black belt. And then I point out I am indeed wearing a black belt. So that's the kind of, the theory of that is a pattern interrupts to an audience. We live in a day and age where everyone is addicted to their screens, and their dopamine fix comes from looking at a screen. So anytime you're in a live performance on stage and you can throw in a pattern interrupt to re-grab people's attention, I try to do it visually because people listen best while watching.
Yes.
So when I'm on stage and I whip out a big kick, people like re-engage. They're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Mm-hmm. So again, there's another, that's not only that, but martial arts gives you the courage to be up in front of people because people have already seen you get your butt kicked. So now you're not afraid to get up and be a speaker.
Right. No, that makes sense. It
really does.
I've told that story for me. I mean, as a kid, even though I'd done martial arts when I was younger, but I was deathly stage fright when I was young. And it wasn't until my instructor essentially pushed me into teaching my own class that I started getting that confidence. So it helps.
And I see it all the time when a kid signs up, you see in a few months, man, they come out of their shell, they feel more confident. And again, it's because they built skills. Yep. And they see they're capable.
That's cool. So you mentioned kids. Now, your kids do martial arts?
You know what? I've got 5 kids and I've got a 7-year-old who actually, my 7-year-old really likes boxing. We break out the mitts and the gloves and he'll do all the numbers 1 through 6 and he likes it. And we watch all the boxing movies and he's been a joy to bring into the martial arts community. He'll say sometimes, you have offended my family and you have offended the Shaolin Temple. And then he takes a pose like Bruce Lee.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool, man. Yeah, it's awesome. He's got a pretty cool dad.
So. I was gonna say that's good parenting there. So and how about your wife? Your wife did martial arts ever? You get her into it?
No, she never did. She never got into that. She's into ballet. I've got 3 girls that are into ballet.
Okay.
That was more her thing. But no, she never followed into the martial arts thing too much. Although I will tell you, one of our first dates, this is how long we've been together, was to see the Bruce Lee film Dragon, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah. It was 93?
And then 3. Yes, that's 30 years. And the other one was Best of the Best 2, which I saw in theaters. Our martial arts studio was across the street from the theater. So we'd go like every day of the week when it was out. I didn't miss it. Like I said, go see it again. Come on, guys.
I actually got to interview Simon Rhee. So that was
those guys are awesome. That movie holds up. I love that movie. I like all the Best of the Best movies.
Oh yes. Yeah. And I got to tell Simon the story too, because the Best of the Best 2, me and my buddy went to it. He's from my Taekwondo class and we went to Best of the Best 2 in the theater. And there was the one scene where Han and the other guys came over and they basically got in that not the bar fight, but the fight at the hotel.
The casino?
They helped them.
Yeah.
And
they break in, yeah.
Yes, and Simon did the one kick where he did an in the air side kick right into a jump turning cycle because I was setting down. And me and my friend were like, dude, did you see that? And we went to the Taekwondo school after the movie and stayed there until 2 a.m. until we perfected that kick. Like that was so much
fun. You
fun.
guys were way more dedicated than we were.
Yeah, our instructor gave us a key. He's like, if you guys want to come in on the weekends, I'll give you guys a key.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Great memories.
Yep, I've had a key since I was a blue belt.
How many people have memories like that all over the world about that movie? Like I bet there's other people talking about it.
Yep. Oh no, I think because it was Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And then I think was Crow the same year, or was Crow a year later?
Yeah, Crow. Yeah, you're right. Crow would have been 93. That's right, with Brandon Lee. Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah, there's some.
Well, the whole martial arts movies genre to me is I could talk a lot of I call them hard drive movies, and by that what I mean is you grow up watching these movies and they essentially format inside you, and you become the hero's journey. Like all these stories are the same story. Guy starts at the bottom, has to meet a coach or a teacher or a mentor or a wizard, whatever. And then he works his way up, and there's so many. I grew up watching, have you ever seen 36 Shaolin Chambers?
Oh, I have the DVD. Yep.
Oh, dude. And how about The House of the Flying Guillotine? Have you seen that?
I've seen it, but I don't have the DVD of that one, but I've seen it.
Oh, that one's great with the one-armed boxer.
Yep.
And dude, that's great. Well, so those are some of my hard drive movies I grew up with were those, but also growing up in the 80s on cable TV on TBS was basically Rocky was on. One of the 4 Rockies would be on basically every day.
Yes.
So that was such a magical time to grow up with that in the background. It became just a part of our culture, just the Rocky music and the whole idea of Rocky's attitude, of don't give up. And every kid my age knew the Rocky story pretty well.
I remember it was a Rocky 4 in the theater, and I still remember this because
dude, wasn't that the best?
Well, the best part was we were there opening night, and I was probably sitting in the middle of the theater. And the scene when, spoiler alert, when Apollo died, this kid in the front row, as loud as can be, Apollo! And we just lost it laughing so hard. Like, it's supposed to be a sad moment, and this kid just ruined it for everyone. I'm like, are you serious, dude? But it was good.
Hey, man, you know what? That Rocky 4, who would have thought that the Russians would still be our villain, our enemy 30 years later, essentially, pop culture wise? It's crazy.
And I think I'm one of the few that actually likes Rocky 5.
Dude, it's so funny. I was going to say, nobody ever talks about that, but I love Tommy Gunn. I like the street fight at the end. And I love the guy who's portraying Don King going, touch me and I'll sue you. Sue you for what?
Boom.
He punches him. Sue me for what?
Yep. See, I love that one too. I've actually, in the last 2 years, I watched all the Rocky movies and all the Creed movies with my 16-year-old daughter. So.
Oh, great, man. Well, you know what? I really do enjoy those franchises. And I think Rocky's done a lot for martial arts.
Yes.
Boxing studios and everything. Anytime those movies come out, I know that the martial arts attendance increases somewhere. People are going to sign up.
Completely. All right. So we mentioned Taekwondo. You mentioned boxing, Kung Fu, MMA. Any other styles that you crept into your life over the years?
I'd say I'm very much a theorist. I love to talk martial arts theory and training theory and everything. So, and lore. I love the lore of martial arts, like the history and everything. I think it's really interesting. But as far as actually practicing, that's everything I've pursued right there.
Ever do weapons training in any of those styles?
No, I got fairly good at the butterfly knife until I cut myself. I gave that up, and then I could do the nunchucks pretty well at one point.
Yep.
But honestly, I always wanted to be able to. And another thing I do is I'm pretty good at card throwing. I've actually worked on throwing playing cards.
Nice.
And so that's my martial art. If anyone ever attacks me, I throw cards at them.
That's actually really. Who's the Marvel
it
character?
It was pretty cool.
The Marvel guy.
That's Gambit on X-Men.
Gambit.
Well, it's funny because when I was in high school, I used to read X-Men, and I remember categorizing how practical the mutant skills are in the real world. And I remember going through all the superheroes going, Doctor Strange is probably one of the most plausible in the sense that hypnosis is real and mentalism it looks like it's real, even though it's science, it's tricks. And I remember also thinking Gambit has a real world skill. Throwing cards is something that, you're not going to hurt anyone, but it's sure cool,
I've seen a few and I'm like, that's impressive. I can do throwing stars and throwing knives, but I've tried doing the card throwing, never pulled it off. So,
like everything, you just do it every day. By the end of a couple of years, you'll be like, damn, I'm pretty good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And again, when you do that, what I love talking about, Brian, is in my presentations, and I think this is something that any martial artist will appreciate, is when you are doing focused, concentrated time and working on something, and then when you go to sleep, the REM sleep recreates all of that. And what it's doing is it's building this mechanism in the back of your brain that it's like a little pathway of neurons and dendrites, and it builds up a motor that handles the skill you're trying to teach. And the best example I like to give is watching your children learn how to play Mario Kart. Because when they're 5 or 6, they're all over the road, man. They don't know how to drive at all. They're frustrated. They're throwing the controller. but you give them a couple weeks and then they're pretty good. And before you know it, they're beating you on Rainbow Road. And that is exactly what happens when you're practicing a skill like martial arts or juggling or magic or dance or anything. And we can accelerate that by getting enough sleep. You need 6 REM cycles of 45 minutes apiece for those skills to be built. And once that motor in the back of your head for the skill is built, you'll be able to do that skill without even thinking about it. So, for example, if I teach someone to juggle, they're focusing, they're throwing, they're thinking, throw, catch. Well, while they're physically thinking about the throwing, they can't be depressed. They can't be anxious. You can only be in the now. But eventually, when you get good at the trick and you're doing it without thinking, if I was to put you in one of those MRI machines and we fired it up, you would have built these pathways in the back of your brain that other people wouldn't have.
Really?
Because you've practiced that skill. So what we want to do here is always be trying to get our martial arts skills in the back of the brain. You know, the man who practiced 10,000 kicks is the one I fear, not the one who practiced 10,000 kicks one time.
Yeah.
You know? So what I'm always doing when I'm doing the speed bag or I'm doing, just 100 front kicks, I'm telling myself, I'm trying to get that to the back of my head so I can not think about it. And once you're able to do the skill and think about what you're going to have for breakfast, like in the world of juggling or card tricks or magic, once you can physically do something and it's easy, then it's time to learn a new trick and now challenge yourself again, because your life should always be about challenging yourself in whatever it is.
That's cool.
Trying to make those brain pattern, the connections stronger and more efficient. So, and some really interesting research about practice that has blown my mind is in Stanford, apparently they're practicing, they're giving people, for example, I think it was basketball. They take 2 groups of people and they have them shoot baskets for an hour. And in one group, they'll interject a sound that will go on during practice. They'll do a series of beeps while they're doing free throws. Then at night, when they enter REM sleep, they reintroduce those same sounds and they can actively see that their brain is now being forced into thinking about, it's like being tricked into thinking about the free throws. And they're seeing the 2 groups comparatively. The groups that have the sounds introduced are improving at a much faster and higher rate in terms of their skill. Wow. The exact numbers I don't have, but this is all information that's free to the public on Stanford's website, I believe. And that's something that when you're a coach at a high level and doing training someone as an athlete and you're their coach or you're their psychologist, you need to take advantage of these things that science is learning. They've also done it with smells where they introduce the smell of lavender into the room. And then when you're asleep, they introduce it and it triggers your thoughts to remember the practice session from earlier. So while you're in bed, now your brain is thinking about what you tried to do in the day and they're seeing those improving scores, So it's an amazing time to be alive with the study of neuroscience.
That's cool. Have you ever considered writing a book?
Yeah, I've got several unfinished books on my hard drive, Brian. It's one of those things. I do. I have several. I'm trying to condense all this, but I'm so busy traveling around speaking and doing these presentations that it's sometimes hard to sit down. But that is definitely on my list. I've got several books that are. I keep telling myself I'm almost there.
Okay.
But
how many shows do you do a year?
So it depends. Pre-COVID, hundreds. I'm doing hundreds of shows a year, but really it depends. There's busy seasons, there's slow seasons. Typically, I'm doing 2, 3, 4 a week, pretty minimum. Then there's some weeks when you're busy where you're doing sometimes 2 or 3 a day, depending.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I was looking just, some of the places you've been and stuff. And actually, no, you've been in North Dakota, which is across the river from me.
Well, I don't like to brag, but I have been in North Dakota. That's true.
That's cool. I'm assuming, are most of them like private corporate things? So like it's nothing that's open to the public usually?
Yeah, almost all my work is private company parties. They hire me to come in and talk to a sales team about psychology and hypnosis. I teach basically how to get into an extreme relaxed state. When you see an athlete, like let's say Usain Bolt, for instance, when you see Usain Bolt run, he looks like he is gliding, like he is just flying. Now, to get to this state as a martial artist, this is your goal. Bruce Lee talks about this. All the martial artists talk about being relaxed. You watch a boxer, they are completely relaxed. Well, to get to this state, you need the sports psychologists help Usain Bolt get there through a series of muscle clenching and relaxing and through a series of breathing. And these breathing techniques really help you to loosen up and relax. And so you're physically at your peak. But a lot of this is mental. And the idea here of a coach is someone to guide you through till you can get that state. And that's what a hypnotist does. They kind of guide you to the state of suggestion where you're completely relaxed. And now your inner critic is only listening to the suggestions from the hypnotist. And now you're able to turn off that critic so you can accept the positive affirmations. For example, you would hypnotize someone who wanted to be a better martial artist. You'd ask for specific suggestions. You'd talk them into a state of relaxation where their muscles are just loose, limp, completely collapsed. And then you give positive affirmations about what the goals they're trying to get to, and you back it up with systems. So if your goal is to last, 10 3-minute rounds with cardio, you give yourself suggestions in this state. You give yourself suggestions about you're an athlete, you wake up every morning, you hit the gym, and your brain is now accepting that this is who you're going to be. And there's just been lots of work done on it. It's a fascinating topic, and it's endlessly interesting to me.
That's cool. All right. So I got some fun questions here. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Oh, okay. Ooh, this is good. I probably watched Bloodsport and Kickboxer about 400 times
Nice.
As a kid. I do like Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think he's awesome.
Okay.
I like all the martial arts guys. I would put, I think Bruce Lee obviously goes on there. I mean, he's obviously at the top. I mean, everybody does that. But the Gracie family, I love their work. Let's see, who else would I put up there? Danny Inosanto and his work. I always liked his stuff. That was always good. I always enjoyed reading his things. I think, who else would I put up there? Well, gosh, I can't tell you how many times I watched Chuck Norris and Delta Force and all these movies. That was ridiculous how much I watched that. I got real good at trying to practice my spinning back kick based on him. So that was always one of my favorites. One of my favorite movies I think that people forget, though, is Kung Fu Hustle, the Stephen Chow film.
Nice. Love Stephen Chow.
Which I love the allegory and the hero's journey, the imagery of the Buddha's palm descending from heaven, and the whole journey of him going from wanting to be a bad guy to being the good guy. I think that's an epic story. So, and obviously, God, Jackie Chan is just wicked to this day. It's hard to beat him. So those are all pretty good, solid choices, I would say.
Very good ones. And I tell you, you'd like this. I should find it and send you a picture of it. But I have at my mom's house the 6-foot original cardboard, like full-size poster that was in the lobby of the movie theater from Delta Force.
Oh, dude!
Yeah,
him holding the 2 Uzis.
Yep. I got the guy to give it to me from the movie theater. It's him and Lee Marvin and
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
I didn't think my mom still had it. I was up in the rafters of their garage. I just found it like 6 months ago. I'm like,
great.
This is awesome. Yeah, that's
awesome. Hey, you know what? Another one that was a VHS tape I wore out. Let's see if you remember this. Jeff Speakman in the Perfect Weapon.
I've interviewed Jeff Speakman on my show.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to dig that up because Speakman. That to me, I love that movie. I love the opening sequence where he's just in his apartment practicing, and there's so many
Power
good
by
scenes
Snap.
In that movie. The music, I've got the power, dude.
That movie is the reason I moved to California in 1996 to learn American Kempo.
No kidding, man.
That's what started it for me. So yeah.
Hey, that was a great movie. I really enjoyed that movie. That's a good one.
That's one of my. I watch it at least once a year. There's a handful of martial arts movies like that one, Best of the Best, Enter the Dragon, The Karate Kid. There's a handful that I'll pull out and watch at least once a year. And Only the Strong's another one too. Mark Dacascos. Yeah.
Is that the Capoeira movie?
Yep, that's the Capoeira movie.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, well, that would have been like what, 94, 5, right around there.
I think so. I think it's early to mid 90s. Yep. Yeah. And I tell people that's the good Capoeira movie. They're like, oh, it's the only one. I'm like, no, there was a horrible one. If you might remember this because you're just around the same age as me. I think it was 88 or 89. There was a movie starring Jason Gedrick from Iron Eagle called Rooftops.
Do not remember it.
A horrible movie. I actually went back and rewatched it about 4 months ago just to see if it was as bad as I remember. But it's in the movie they actually called it combat dancing. They didn't even call it capoeira. I don't think
combat dancing. Yeah, I like it. Well, how about? Do you remember Jim Cotta?
God, that's bad. That actually might be one of the worst ones ever. One of the worst ones ever.
That's the one where he's on the pommel horse and he's kicking all the people as he's doing the horse. Yeah, that was hilarious. Well, here's one that I love that recently came out was Paper Dragons or Paper Tigers.
That's a good movie. That's a really good movie.
Man, that movie is, are you kidding? It's fantastic, dude. I was dying through that movie. That was genius.
That is so cool.
There's so many funny lines in that movie.
There is. That's one I need to rewatch.
And one of my favorite lines from any movie is in Kung Fu Hustle when the Axe Gang hires the 2 musician assassins to go kill the Kung Fu masters at Diagon Alley. Yep. One of my favorite lines in a movie is when he says to the Axe Gang, he says, older kung fu masters of this level never cease to be a problem.
Nice.
And I thought, I love it. That's great to age as a master and still be causing trouble for the bad guys. I love it.
That's cool. How about, were you a fan? Do you remember the movie Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer? He was like the blind guy with the cane that had a sword in it.
Oh, no, I don't. Okay. I know Kung Fury, the internet, the YouTube movie, but not Blind Fury. I don't remember.
I can't remember if it was early 90s or late 80s. I want to say like 88, 89. I think it came out the same time as the same year as that movie Eye of the Tiger. I think it was Gary Busey. I think Gary Busey starred in that one.
Okay. I don't remember that at all, but I do remember this. Lee Van Cleef in The Master. Yeah, The Master. Yeah.
I have the pilot episode on DVD with Demi Moore was in it.
What year would that have been? Like 83, 4?
I think it was 83 because I think it was the year before the TV show Sidekicks came out with Ernie Reyes Jr.
I remember that. Hey, do you remember him in Conan the Barbarian, the second Conan? Yeah.
Yep, that was that was one of my favorite TV shows.
Here, man.
Dude, I could literally talk like 80s, 90s martial arts movies for like 2 hours.
Hey, listen, man. I mean, just gratitude for being a Generation Xer. I love being born when I was. I feel very fortunate. We have so much cool pop culture in terms of movies. We were there for the martial arts explosion. You and I both have seen The Last Dragon. That's another one of my favorite movies.
I love that.
That movie is fantastic, man. That is one of the funniest movies.
I'm trying to get Timac on my show. I put a request in, and I'd love to interview him. It'd be so cool. Yeah. Like Bruce Leroy himself.
Bruce Leroy that catches bullets with his teeth. Yeah, that's a great movie. Again, we're so lucky we grew up when we did. We had such fun music, such fun movies, and I didn't have a cell phone following me around everywhere.
Do you remember They Call Me Bruce and They Still Call Me Bruce?
Oh, dude. Yes, of course.
You're one of the first that remembers those.
You go back and watch that. It is so disrespectful to Italians and everyone, man. You can't, if you tried to make that movie today, it's just, that's a great, dude. I haven't heard that. Do you remember, well, this is off topic, Kentucky Fried Movie?
Oh, yeah.
Or you do?
Yeah, that was actually just brought up on my interview last night. That was brought up. So
how about Amazon Women on the Moon?
God, that was a bad one. That one and Earth Girls Are Easy came around the same time, I think.
It may be. That was with Jim Carrey. I never saw that one, but it's funny. Again, we grew up in that time where it was just that weird movies like Porky's, like remember that? That was huge.
Another one that they could never make today.
No, you could not make that today for sure.
Before I get to my next question, I got one more I want to ask you about. Do you remember the early 90s TV series called Street Justice?
Yes, of course.
Carl Weathers and Brian Genesee.
God.
Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers played a cop. It was kind of like Sidekicks, except it was a movie. It was Carl Weathers played a cop, and Brian Genesee was like a 20-some-year-old kid that basically lived with him and helped him. He was a martial artist and helped him solve crimes. It was one of my
favorite. When you say Sidekicks, I'm thinking of the Chuck Norris movie.
That's the movie. Yeah, I was thinking the Ernie Reyes Jr. TV series Sidekicks.
Oh, that was the TV show Sidekicks. Okay, and then but this movie was called Street Justice. That was
a TV show. Yes, it was around it came out the same time as Kung Fu: The Legend Continues. They were on roughly the same.
And wasn't David Carradine's kid in it or something?
Chris Potter played his son. Yes.
And I remember watching it. It just didn't have the same. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't the same magic as the original. Obviously, it's hard to recapture that. Same thing with every TV show. Twilight Zone. How many times they've tried rebooting that? Or Addams Family. Yep. They keep trying. It's never the same.
But you mentioned the Chuck Norris movie Sidekicks. I love that. His fight with Joe Piscopo at the end.
Dude,
one of my favorites.
Again, that falls in the category. If I watch that over and over, remember they kept doing those round kicks. They just keep their foot up and just did Taekwondo. No, yeah, dude. That was a fun. Again, fun times, man. What year did you graduate high school, Brian?
92.
Dude, we're so, again, man, I love growing up. Remember how cool it was to have an IROC Camaro or a 5-liter Mustang?
I had an 86 Dodge Charger. That was my high school and college car.
The little hatchback. Was it silver and blue? What was it?
It was silver and gray, like silver and grayish type.
Like black?
Yeah, silver and black.
How many miles did you get out of it before it died?
I honestly, those are it's something weird happened with the engine. It ran pretty well, but I had to trade it in because I regret selling it. But there was something weird wrong with the engine. I had to keep putting money into it, and my dad convinced me to sell it, and I kind of wish I wouldn't have. So, and I bought a Toyota Tercel when I sold that. Yeah. So, not as cool.
Yeah, not as cool, but certainly, you know what, man? All cars are designed to keep us poor, I swear.
Definitely. All right. So you've talked a lot about like, philosophies and stuff. And so I'm curious, in all your years of martial arts and in your whole life, is there one philosophy that stands out, one that just rises to the top and you keep coming back to it?
Yes. And that is live life with purpose.
Nice. I think this question is one that I've never had the same answer from anybody, probably.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's what makes the world so interesting.
Yes. All right. So this one I'm curious about. Do you have a favorite martial arts book?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Book of Five Rings.
Nice.
I consider that a martial arts book.
Yep.
I also, I would say, Marcus Aurelius wrote a book called Meditations, Stoicism, philosophy, and it's not necessarily a martial arts book, but he mentions martial arts in it. And I always think back to this quote where he says, and he's older in his life, he's the emperor, and he still works out every day, and he wrestles, and he says, when I am paired, actually, this may be a quote to one of the other Stoics, but it's in Marcus's book. He says, when I am paired against a younger, more talented, powerful opponent in the wrestling pitch, I do not ask why me. I say, oh, I'm now able to sharpen my skills to a level I wouldn't have been to before.
Nice.
And I always look at life that way, like, oh, it's a challenge. That's good. That means now, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to grow. I'm going to be able to apply this in my life as allegory in some other way, in some other future scenario.
Very cool. I like that a lot. All right. These last few questions, based on the last 10 minutes, we could go down some rabbit holes here, but I'm still going to ask them. So, favorite martial arts video game?
Oh, dude. Street Fighter 2, Double Dragon, the original Karate, Kung Fu.
Nice.
I love all those games. I got a little queasy with Mortal Kombat. I just feel like, because I don't want my kids seeing that when they're little. It's like, I can't show them. That's just too much. So Mortal Kombat was where I kind of drew the line. But, dude, I've beat M. Bison with Chun-Li so many times.
That's awesome. And
I love Street Fighter 2.
One I remember, and most people don't remember it, but if you had a Commodore 64, there was a bootleg video game that was just called Bruce Lee. And I don't think it was licensed at all. And I actually went and found like a video of it on YouTube. And I'm like, man, that was a horrible. I can't believe I enjoyed playing that. But yeah, I used to play it. I know it was bad. And like, first of all, it looks nothing like Bruce Lee. It was like 1986 on a Commodore 64. So, graphics weren't that good.
Dude, I used to play Ultima. Do you remember Ultima on the Commodore 64?
I remember that. Yep.
Oh, dude, we'd play Ultima and Bard's Tale. Oh, I used to, again, I'm Brian, I will tell you, one of the things I speak about once in a while is video game addiction, because I have had to defeat video game addiction at least 6 separate times. First with Wizardry in the 80s. Then again, I got addicted to World of Warcraft, then Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. And I had to quit cold turkey because it was eating into my business. I was getting overweight. These video games are designed by neurologists and psychologists to keep you playing.
Yep.
And it's just that quest, one more quest. And if you think about it, it appeals to the hero's journey inside all of us. And most of these games are sci fantasy or some sort of, like Dungeons and Dragons type feel to them. And that's because something inside each of us is called to that adventure. And what we're missing, though, is we're supposed to use that call to adventure in our own lives, not in the video games.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the way I look at it.
I've been lucky. We have a Wii, which I probably haven't played it in 10 years. That's the only game system we have in our house. We used to have a PlayStation, but I get my video game fix, my full-time job, and at one of our break rooms at work, we have a stand-up. We have 2 stand-up video games. We have this golf one called Golden Tee. And then,
of course.
Yeah, but then next to it, we have this one that has like 30 games on it, like classic. It's with the joystick and everything, and I play Galaga every day on my break.
Yep. It's funny you say I've got a 60-in-1 arcade, and we've got all those cool ones. It's got Burger Time and Dig Dug, and those games to me, those are games I can walk away from.
Yes.
But these games that are immersive where you go, Brian, the day I realized that a problem was about 2 a.m. I was in one of these immersions in these World of Warcraft games where you have to go in with a whole group of guys and you're stuck there for hours. Well, I wake up the next morning about 7 hours later and I log in, and all of these guys that I was playing with in my guild, they're still playing. I go, hey, you guys are here early. And they go, no, we never left. We're still up from last minute. And I realized, hey man, not healthy.
Yeah. See, I got lucky. The only time I ever had anything close to that was, I think, when I was 10 on our Atari 2600. I played Asteroids for 4.5 or 5.5 hours until I flipped it. I wanted to flip it and get it back to 0 for the score, and I did it. And then I probably never played it again.
Never played it again. Because those games you could put down because now you've done it. Whereas these other games, hey, guess what? The mithril sword of +6 agility is just beyond this dragon's lair. Let's go, everybody.
Yeah.
That's how they keep you playing, man.
See, I've been lucky. Any kind of like addiction stuff, I've been lucky enough that I've seen do so many horrible things to other people. Like I had a friend when I was like probably 9 or 10 that wanted to get me to smoke. And he went and he stole cigarettes from his mom. And we were going to smoke. Oh, wow. And he's like, I'm going first because they're my mom's. I'm like, all right, fine. So he lit up, he took a big puff, and he threw up all over my backyard. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I walked away. I've never smoked a day in my life.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then in college, my two of my roommates, the Sega Genesis came out when I was in college.
Oh, I remember that.
They bought one, and they literally missed class for 2 weeks playing Sega Genesis.
Right. And think about that. You could have done, I started I looked at my hours in World of Warcraft and I realized I could have probably reached, another black belt in another discipline with all those hours I wasted,
Exactly.
And I also, I could have learned the piano. I could have become a chess master. And I realized it's so unproductive. But we live in this attention economy, Brian, and I don't think people consciously recognize this. Our economy has shifted, and you and I, being Gen Xers, people born between 65 and 82, we've really seen it more than probably anyone else, because when we were kids, most dads worked in a factory. A lot of moms stayed home. Mm-hmm. It was fairly unheard of. That, I mean, there were latchkey kids and everything, but now we've shifted to the service economy where nobody makes anything in America anymore. Yeah. Like my father worked a union job where he made stuff. Those are all gone. Yep. And it was replaced with the service industry. Well, now we're in the middle of the attention economy. And what that means is any medium that you can get people at, that's the economy, because now there's more eyeballs available than ever because people stay home and work. People have their phones in their pockets wherever they are, whereas it used to be you could only show people screens when they sat down at home at television. Well, now they can constantly be watching something wherever they are. So if you can keep their attention, that's where the money is.
You hit it right on the head completely.
And once you recognize that, you can say, hey, these games are taking my attention away from what I should be doing, which is the gift of life I've been given is to be a creator and to create a better place.
Right now, my only addiction is this podcast because it takes up every ounce of my free time. So,
but Brian, you're creating, and that's what the world. We're all made. I really am a fan of philosophy. About 4 years ago, I had a severe asthma attack, and I've struggled with asthma. One of the other reasons I joined martial arts was to deal with my cardio, and I had a severe asthma attack after a 2-week presentation. I was doing a lot of presentations, and I had this allergic asthma reaction, and I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital in an ambulance, but luckily someone got me an inhaler in time. And I remember sitting there thinking this quote I'd read in college when I took a philosophy class, and it was, "A man has 2 lives, and the second begins when he realizes he only has one." And I remember sitting there, and I said that day, I'm never going to miss a workout again. I'm going to wake up early every single day. There's no more excuses. I'm going to go back to the martial artist that I used to be, and I'm not going to be lazy anymore. I'm going to be ambitious and get things done. And it's led me into a rabbit hole of just re-examining philosophy and diving deep into Confucius, Lao Tzu, Sun Tzu, Buddha. And then on the Western philosophy side, we've got Epicurus, Epictetus, all these different philosophers that really, once you start seeing their messages, you realize you don't need a whole lot in life to be happy. In fact, the more things you own, the more they own you. You're probably better off living life for experiences rather than owning things.
Right.
And I've become a minimalist and gone back to the roots of what makes you feel good is getting up early with the sun. What do all those martial arts movies have in common? Wake up early and train because you feel best when you're training. And if nothing else, just do it for the training.
Yeah.
And it's really been life-changing.
I love it. All right. Next question. Favorite martial arts TV show?
Oh, TV show.
Yep.
Oh, let me see. You know what? The Batman animated series in the 90s was awesome.
Nice.
And he had there's one episode where this martial arts master comes after Batman and he's learning the dim mak. They don't call it the dim mak, the death touch.
Yep.
But Batman, this assassin jumps on Batman and somehow punches him in the right spot. And Batman, you think he's dead. And then you find out at the end, I broke into your dojo and studied. I watched where you were punching the wooden dummy over and over. And I put extra armor there. So when you punched me, I'd know that was the dim mock. You know, it was awesome, dude. So that's my favorite. I love Batman animated series 90s. That was an epic cartoon. It's got a great music intro too. Yep. Really epic series.
That's actually been said before. So that's good. Nice.
No, are you serious?
Yep. Yeah. I think one of my very first guests, like one of my first 10 guests on the show said that.
Oh, that's funny. How obscure. I love it.
That's really cool. All right.
What are some other answers you get on that, Brian?
You name it. Green Hornet. Obviously, Kung Fu has been said many times. People have said sidekicks. A lot of people have said Cobra Kai. Walker, Texas Ranger, Highlander has been said. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of variety said.
Do you remember the Jackie Chan made-for-TV movie called The Big Fight, or it's in the Wild West days? Have you ever seen this with Jackie Chan in the 80s? It was made for TV.
I'm sure
it's a Wild West days, and they're having a tough guy fight, and it's Jackie Chan against all these like big Wild West guys, like a big fat bald guy. And I'll find this. I'll have to send you the link. It's a great 80s made for TV movie. You'd love it.
I'm sure I've probably seen it, but it's probably been a long time. So yeah, if you can find it, that'd be cool.
So that was one that I remember watching as a kid and going, what are all these kicks and punches? I want to learn that. I want to be like a little acrobat, you know? So,
nice.
But that wasn't a TV show so much as a TV movie.
And a lot of people also recently have said the TV show Warrior.
Oh, you know what, man? Have you seen it?
I've seen Warrior. Yes. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Is it good? You know what? I can't get past the beheadings at one of the first scenes. Just really disturbing to me.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's part of being an empath. They show people's heads cutting off, and I just never like extreme violence like that. You know, it's just like, ugh.
I just like it because Shannon Lee's involved, and it's what Kung Fu was supposed to be. They created it based on Bruce Lee's notes for the original Kung Fu. So it's what it could have been.
I'll have to give it another try. You know, we live in a culture where, I grew up like boxing movies, Kung Fu movies, people get beat up. That's cool, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, like John Wick, I really want to like John Wick, Brian. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. But shooting people in the face, that's not the same as Kung Fu and martial arts. I'm sorry, man. No. You got to leave someone standing. You just don't kill everyone. It's just part of our culture. I'd love to see a paradigm shift a change in our attitudes in the zeitgeist about death and murder and shooting people. Go back to beating people up.
I would agree.
Very violent culture.
Well, we talked quite a bit about this, but favorite martial arts movie?
Oh, geez. How many did we just mention, man?
Like 30?
So I will tell you, I think that obviously Enter the Dragon to me, that was supposed to be like a James Bond franchise, and that was supposed to be the first one. Yep. And they were going to make a whole bunch of them, and it breaks my heart because who knows what that could have turned into. Even now, I go back, I watch that. The music, the editing, there's nothing better than when I'm trying to remember the main character, Jones. Jones says to Mr. Han, he says, "Man, you come right out of a comic book." Great line, because that's exactly right. You know, it's like, that's what this is supposed to be. So that's probably my all-time favorite. Follow up, Enter the Dragon. I probably watched Best of the Best 2 and the original 100 times. Perfect Weapon dozens of times. Nice. Bloodsport dozens. Kickboxer dozens. Yeah, those are all kind of core movies for me.
Very cool. All right. And the final martial arts question, this one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie, just a favorite movie fight scene. Is there one fight scene that stands out?
Yeah, I've got a lot of them. I love when the Axe Gang shows up in Kung Fu Hustle and they pour gasoline on the woman and the kid, and the music drums and it's slow motion and the lighter starts and he's like 1, 2, and he's going to drop the lighter and the guy steps forward and goes, "It was me." And then the big fight starts and it's just these Kung Fu masters kicking butt. That's probably one of my favorite fight scenes because it's kind of cartoon Matrix meets, you know, traditional Kung Fu. It's just a fun thing. But as far as realistic fight scenes in movies, you know, I gotta say, man, I've watched Rocky IV so many times. I just love the whole spirit and attitude of that movie and the training scenes.
The training scenes.
And that is probably, that's epic. And the music, I'd say probably Rocky IV. And although I love the Mr. T fight in Rocky III, they're all good, man. Don't make me pick a favorite, Brian.
Most people give more than one answer for that anyway. So, and like I said, I've had people pick and people have picked anything from Rocky to Star Wars to Marvel to, I had someone pick the sword fight in Princess Bride. So it's cool to hear that, the different answers and stuff. So it's kind of cool, but
yeah. That is good. But, to me, I keep going back to that Enter the Dragon fight where he's with, I think it's Bob. I'm trying to remember that martial artist. Bob Wall. Was that his name? Yeah, Bob Wall. Where they're hand to hand. And I love that whole where he's going through the flashback in his mind of how his sister had to kill herself because of the gang. And I think I love that whole sequence, and the whole fight scene is that's a great scene. Nice. And there's not too many special effects. You know what I mean? It's still, it's very pure. Yeah.
See, one of my favorites is from the Matt Damon Bourne Identity movies. Some of those fight scenes are just fast and realistic and good. So it's fun. But all right, finally, this one has nothing to do with martial arts. And I just thought of it. I want to ask you, since you're also a mentalist, I'm just curious because I was a fan of the show. What did you think of the TV show The Mentalist with Simon Baker?
I feel bad that I've never really seen a single episode, so really? I can't comment. Okay. I know I need to. I will tell you, I really do not watch much television, especially modern television. I don't watch a lot, but everyone's told me it's actually a really good show, so I need to watch it. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is from what you do, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and stuff, and if it gets anything close or realistic, and be interesting.
Yeah. I do love trying to explain to people magic versus mentalism. And I love the idea of mentalism is it's not prop heavy. You don't need a lot of props. And it's just a psychological aspect of magic. And magic to me is very similar to martial arts in that you need to put in the time and energy. And once you learn the techniques, like in martial arts, in boxing, you got a few basic punches that you need to master. Well, it's no different than magic. You've only got every magic trick in the world can fall into one of 6 or 7 categories, and that's it. There's only 7 magic tricks in the world, arguably. So that's the same with martial arts. When you get into a discipline, you got to learn those basics, learn the front kick, then the side kick, then the round kick. And just, it's such a journey, and it's very fulfilling to pursue something you love. And immerse yourself in it.
Well, I hope I get to see you live someday. And if you ever, even if not, but if you ever get to the Minnesota or North Dakota area, let me know, because I'd love to grab lunch and talk more martial arts movies.
Oh, of course, man. We spend hours doing that. I do make it to Minnesota quite a bit. I've had many presentations in Minneapolis in the area. In fact, my oldest son graduated from Carleton in Minnesota.
Okay.
And then my daughter, my third daughter, starts in Carleton this year.
Nice. Okay. See, I actually,
we've got a lot of Minnesota roots.
Yeah. One of my side gigs, I do sports PA announcing, and I announce basketball for the Concordia Cobbers, who are in the same league as Carleton. So I get to announce Carleton basketball once or twice a year. So
wow, man, you are one busy guy, Brian. How many kids do you have?
I have 3. Oldest is he'll be 24 next month. He lives in Arlington, Virginia. Our 19-year-old is a freshman, just finishing his freshman year at University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and our daughter's a sophomore. All 3 did martial arts for a while. Most, usually they all started at age 5, and they quit anywhere from like age 13 to 15. They're all theater kids.
Hey man, nothing wrong with that. That's cool.
Yeah, they're all very comfortable on stage and have done musical theater, regular theater, and my son's actually going to college to be an actor. So.
Brian, I think that is fantastic. Listen, I really do. When I take the stage, I think about martial arts. Since I started on stage, I think about it all the time. I think
that's awesome.
This is the ultimate expression and culmination of everything I've studied and practiced, and now I bring it to my dojo, which is the stage.
That's really cool.
And there's no wrong answer. It's subjective. I can do whatever I want. They're not going to go, that's not allowed in our discipline. You can't do that.
Definitely. Well, I got to say, Arthur, this has been, I didn't know what to expect because I knew very little about you. This has been such a blast. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours just about movies and TV shows. But before I let you go, anything that I maybe didn't ask you that you want to be sure to go, and I'll put links for your website and stuff so people can learn more about you and everything. But anything you want to get out there before I let you go?
Brian, what I would want to leave with people is there's this great quote I try to live by. It's from George Bernard Shaw, and it goes something like this. Here is the true joy in life. It's in being used for a purpose considered by yourself as mighty, as a force of nature, instead of as a suffering clod of ailments and grievances, complaining the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the entire community. The harder I work, the more I live. I do not believe life is a short candle. To me, it is a sort of splendid torch that I have hold of for the moment. And it is my duty to make it shine as brightly as possible before handing it off to future generations.
That's cool. That's a great way to end it. Seriously, just from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. This has been such a blast. And I truly hope we can meet in person sometime and go down.
It's a matter of time. I make it up there once every year or two. So you'll see me up there. It's just a matter of time. And same, if you're ever, listen, man, you ever need anyone to speak for you? I mean, I'm not going to charge you what I charge normal clients. I'm happy to, I sincerely love spreading the message of, the philosophers and martial artists about getting in the moment and being a creator and don't live in the past or future. I just feel it's kind of my definitiveness of purpose. It's what I do. I really enjoy it. Well, so please, anytime I can work with someone with similar, goals definitely. And philosophies, I will.
Well, what I might do is I might actually give you your info to our local Chamber of Commerce because they bring in speakers once or twice a year also. And that'd be kind of cool because that would be technically open to the public. You have to be a chamber member and stuff, but that'd be kind of fun to do.
I do a lot of Chamber of Commerces. Yeah, I'd be thrilled, man. It'd be my pleasure. Absolutely.
Anything I can do to help, I will. And other than that, I will be in touch when the episode comes out. The episode, I think your episode right now is tentatively scheduled for May 18th. So just under a month ahead.
Awesome. And Brian, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for reaching out to me, man. It's been a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing you in the audience soon.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.